All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to stealthyhunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
You're listening to the Northern Hunter Podcast, home of all things hunting, fishing, and outdoors in Alaska. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is James Payne.
I'm Mariah Humphreys.
And we are once again sitting down with Lowell Gilliland, founder of the Wrangell gear products lines. And thank you again for sticking around with us. I know it's getting a little bit late here, but we appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I really wanted to take another chance just to let people kind of get to know you a little bit better, know kind of your background, some of the stories from that first episode. In the beginning part of it, you told some pretty crazy stories of your introduction into the backcountry, and how you got into it. And from talking to you a little bit off air, it sounds like that's not the end of the story reel. So I want to dive into that a little bit in this one. For everybody that's listening, if you want to support what we're doing here, if you like the show, if you're listening, one, hope you're having a great week so far. But two, if you want to support us, easiest way to do that is hit that subscribe button, like and share the show with your friends. Ratings go a lot farther than people think, and written reviews are gold. So if you could rate the show and give us a written review, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to help us grow and achieve more media platforms and keep doing what we're doing, head over to thenorthernhunter.com. We have a nice shop page there where we got some merch and whatnot you can buy, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, more designs coming down, and the partners page where a bunch of companies have believed in what we're doing here and decided to give us some discount codes on their gear, and it's all really great stuff. If you buy from them, then helps them out. A lot of them are smaller companies as well, but helps them, helps us, and we appreciate all the support. So,
I was going to bring up, and I forgot to mention this beforehand, but the 40 Mile Hunt, winter hunt, has been canceled.
Oh, has it really? Did they come out with that officially?
They did.
Okay.
It's supposed to open October 27th. And as of right now, it's canceled for opening, and it may open later this winter.
I heard they might do like an emergency order on that one because of the high quotas that was taken during the fall season.
So they shut it down.
Okay.
And indefinitely, but there's a chance it might open later this winter. They may open it around, who knows, they may open it like in January or something like that.
Right. Somewhere. Yeah, I heard somebody was telling me that the reason they were kind of in a conundrum about that is so many of the caribou were taken up off the Steese side, so more northern zones, and kind of towards the eastern end of their range, and that's kind of still where they're hanging out, and so they wanted to wait and give the herd time to migrate and all that, and move off the easier highway access, because from what I hear, there's only going to be a quota. If they do open it, it's only going to be about 100 bulls, maybe 150, but it's whatever the remainder is from the fall, because there were more taken in the fall than were supposed to be. So
yeah, and I mean, if 100 bulls would be taken, more than that would be taken probably the first day if they're near the road at all.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So, but yeah, if anybody is interested in going on that hunt and figuring out, there is a hotline that you can call. Just Google the 40 Mile Hotline through Alaska Fish and Game Department, and they'll keep that recording updated. So before you head out or before you get too excited, make sure you call that hotline, see if it's even open or not. And definitely make sure we've heard of people going out without calling the hotline, either, after closures or maybe they change, sometimes they'll change it from any caribou to one bull. And you definitely want to make sure you're learned up on that.
Yeah.
So
I heard a guy this year went out the day it opened the year before and shot a caribou, brought it home, did like full clean, like, cut ribeyes, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
cut it beautiful. And then found out that the season opened 4 days after he shot that caribou.
Oh, no.
So he turned himself in and had to turn that whole caribou in, beautifully vacuum packed and everything.
Oh, wow. That's rough. At least he did turn himself in, which is always the proper thing to do. If you find out you made any kind of violation, always make sure you turn yourself in. Just they'll more than likely be a lot more lenient with you if you do, and it's it's the honorable thing to do. I mean, nobody wants to be sneaking around breaking game laws and putting a bad name out for hunters everywhere. So, but yeah, that's a good point with the 40-mile herd. That's relevant for sure.
I need to correct what I just said about the 40-mile hunt.
Oh, do you?
I do. So I just looked it up. So they delayed it for zones 1 and 4, but 2 and 3 will still be open.
Oh, 2 and 3 will still be open. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but from what I heard, 1 and 4 is where the herd's at right now. So
right.
Yeah, 2 and 3 is a little bit. I've heard there's not many boo in that area right now. So, but if you want to go check it out, I mean, by all means, nothing else. You just have a great time out in the woods. So, speaking of having great times out in the woods,
wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, I like that one. So you told Lowell, you told us a pretty awesome and interesting story at the beginning of the last episode about your first venture into the woods, going out as a packer and grizzly bears and spending the night on the side of a mountain. I believe you said you bivvy camped in a trash bag. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, a contractor grade black trash sack. Never leave your backpack. Never leave home without it. Right? Kind of like never leave Earth without duct tape. You might need it in space.
Right.
It's been known to happen. It's one of those it has utilitarian pieces of equipment. The good old trash sack, right? It's a dry bag. It keeps the inside of your bag, from getting all nasty and bloody. If you throw meat in there, I don't know, you might sleep in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, anything to keep you dry. I mean, in those situations.
Like, I don't know what the R value of a black trash sack is on the side of a mountain, but I tell you what, it's better than not having it.
Right.
Yeah. I can't say I've slept in a contractor bag. But
I don't think I have either.
But I'll keep one of those on me for sure. But I don't know if I'd be looking forward to a situation like that. But sounds like you've had quite a few fun adventures out there. So how long? So you started guiding or packing, I should say. You started packing for him when you said you were what, 16?
15 or 16. And just to clarify, this was just packing for an individual on his personal hunts, and he happened to be an outfitter.
Oh,
these
gotcha.
weren't guided hunts. This was just when you start getting to be a little older. It is nice to have a young, strong back to carry all your own gear, particularly when it's a young, strong back of an individual that wants to learn about hunting, and you happen to have 50 years of Alaskan hunting experience. And like, back in the day, we used to run polar bear and walrus hunts, and you have that kind of experience. Like, well, yeah, I'm willing to go ahead and pack for free, basically, just to be able to get out.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else that is into hunting, and you have an airplane, so of course I'm going to be willing to pack whatever you want. Sure, I'll carry all my gear plus as much of your gear as I can possibly take, and I'll make 2 trips if need be.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, the payment is the adventure at that point. I mean, they're just getting the knowledge and the learning.
And when you're young, go for it, right? I mean, you don't have bills.
Right. You don't have bills and you don't have a broken back yet. So
I wonder how old guides get old. Might be being a packer. I'm pretty sure that having bad back is like a pre-qualification for being an outfitter, like a master guide. You herniate at least one disc.
It might be. I've heard. They say I come from an Army background, so that's how I got to Alaska way back in the day. And Army years, people will equate that, each 1 year in the Army is like dog years, it's like an extra 4 to 7 years on your life, like for how it wears down on your body and everything. And guiding's definitely got to be on that list too. I mean, guiding years are a whole nother thing, I'm sure, packing around and all the terrain. So you basically, you worked with him, for a while. It was kind of, as him as your mentor. Did you start working for him basically as soon as you were allowed to? Like as an actual official packer?
Yep. Or? 18, I think when I turned 18, it was the first year, went down to Kodiak and, packed for bear hunts down there.
Awesome. Yeah. Kodiak bears, huh? How'd that go?
Well, I can tell you that a Kodiak brown bear hide is very heavy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's, I'm sure, our other co-host Dalton's normally with us. He does some coastal brown bear hunting, and I know I've talked to him quite a few times about the weight of hides and the kind of packs it takes to get those out and whatnot. It sounds like an endeavor. I'm excited to head down out of the interior at some point and try it out. But the Kodiaks are a whole nother ballgame, aren't they?
Well, I mean, bear hunting is bear hunting is bear hunting. Every place you go, there's there's details that change, and sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a small. Sometimes it's simple as bears look different. Like different genetics. Some bears are longer than they are wide. Like, are you good at judging? A bear based on size in one area? Well, maybe you go to a different area and the bears look different, so you have to adapt. As far as tactics, I mean, it probably changes a bit, from location to location, but sit and watch. But of course, spring and fall are a bit different in that regard. Spring, you're sitting watching, and every day you're seeing more bears. Typically, fall, every day you sit there not shooting a bear is a little more stressful because more bears are denning up and whatnot. And you see fewer and fewer as hunt progresses. Kodiak bears are very unique. Kodiak is a very unique location. I love Kodiak. It's very, very rugged, and just the geology and the topography there is quite interesting. Particularly further south you go. I mean, it looks like old seabed, but part of the uniqueness of it is you have these springs that are on the side of mountains that are pretty high up. You have phenomenal salmon runs. There's tons and tons of food down in some portions of Kodiak, at least according to the biologists down there. Some of the bears don't even hibernate. There's just food so much of the year that they can, like on the beach, they can just feed and feed and feed, and they do. They grow quite large. I mean, the peninsula bears, grow just as large, really, comparatively speaking. They're the same. They might be genetically isolated, but Kodiak definitely has the name.
Yeah, that's everything I've known about the Kodiak bears is it's the genetic isolation that's caused them to kind of separate themselves from other coastal brown bear areas, with size and head size and head shape and all of that being typically much larger than you'll find on the coast of the mainland kind of setup.
And it depends on the bear. How patient are you?
Yeah.
Patience, persistence, and time have killed way more critters than that fancy new camo pattern. And that's coming from it's coming from a guy that designs outdoor gear. And at least I want to be honest with you. Hey, get out there. If you don't know how to do it, get out there and learn, or find somebody and just get out there and experience it. Sure, you're going to make mistakes. Try not to make mistakes that get you killed or hurt. Get home, reassess, regroup, and go back out again.
Yep. There's nothing that's going to replace in-field experience. That's for sure. And like you said, time is the biggest thing, making sure you're dedicating the time to it, because that's one thing. I think we talked about this just in a different episode is, there's a thing to going out like on the weekends when you can. I mean, obviously sometimes that's all you can do, but when you can dedicate the time to being out there and being patient and having the, you don't have that urgency, I guess. I mean, that's huge. That's that can be the difference altogether. I mean, even if you're in the exact same area, just dedicating more time to that same area.
Oh, yeah. Learning, one area, or just learning, one species of animals' habits, or is there, life cycle, or just the ecology of, like you're talking about that one region. He said patience, persistence, and time. Those are the three things that probably killed more trophy critters than anything else. But good gear makes it a whole lot less miserable.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, when you're not soaking wet in your first day.
If you have a sleeping bag and not a contractor grade trash sack, you're going to be a lot more comfortable, and you'll be really glad that you spent that $150 on that sleeping bag versus the 10 cents or 50 cents or whatever on that trash bag.
Yep. So was that where? So was Kodiak brown bears your first official guided hunting?
Yeah, that's where I that's where I cut my teeth. That's where I learned the basics of judging bears, and that's where I eventually got my guide's license. And the first hunt that I was ever a contracted guide on was down there in Kodiak.
Nice. Any crazy run-ins down there?
Surprisingly not.
Surprisingly not.
I would say when you're responsible for another individual, you're always going to be a little bit more cautious about the risks you take, because you never know. You might know your limitations, experience-wise or physically, capabilities, etc., or just snap judgment decision calls and how to respond. But you don't know what a client's background or abilities might be. So you're always going to err on the side of caution. I mean, that's why you're a guide, right? You're there to be the responsible individual that knows the animals, knows the areas, knows the dangers, etc.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. How many years were you guiding brown bears down there?
Let's see. I want to say all told, it was maybe 5 years. 5 seasons. I should say 5 seasons. Let me say 5 years. It's kind of like bear season's pretty short. I don't want to advertise my time spent, but you can learn so much about just going out. And in fact, the year that I applied for my guide's license, I didn't have technically enough time in the field.
Okay.
I want to say it was 90 days in the field is what was required. And one of the things you could do was just go out, and they called it game surveying. And take a pair of binoculars and go watch, go look, go learn. And I mean, I had tons of experience, but I wanted to be above board in every aspect of getting that. I didn't want to feel as though I had cheated in any way, shape, or form in the experience level, or had cheated myself. I mean, it's like, okay, I might have had 90 days, but 15 days of that were, weather days. Were you technically in camp and in the field? Yes, but how much did you really learn?
Right.
So yeah, got on got behind a good set of binoculars and got on a good pair of hiking boots and went out and spent more time in the field. It was good. It was great. Learned a lot. Saw a lot of bears. See moose, see wolves. Just open your eyes, slow down, start understanding.
Yeah.
And the more time you spend in the field, you will notice humans are really, really loud when they go into the woods. In general, humans are loud.
Yeah.
Or the number of times that, step out of your pickup truck. And then, I don't know, get whatever you need out of your pickup truck, and then look in the snow in the parking lot and see how many times you moved your feet. You don't see animals doing that.
No,
and it's don't. Realizing how much of a disturbance you really are when you're walking out into the woods. And it's just all of a sudden this more global understanding of how small you are in that picture, but how big of an impact you may have on just how animals respond or, don't, based on your disturbances.
Yep. No, that's absolutely true. Well, and not only how they respond to your disturbances, but also, I mean, like you had said, learning the animals you're pursuing is huge. And when you're out there just observing them, not necessarily pursuing them, and just watching what they're doing, watching trying to figure out why they're doing it, where they're going, what paths they're taking, things like that. That can really, I mean, we talk about a lot on the show with, just scouting off season and, postseason moose scouting, preseason moose scouting, scouting bear areas, things like that. It's all super, super important stuff, for elevating your game out there. Cause I know a lot of guys they try for moose, and the only times they're out looking for moose is during open season. And it's not always the best way to go. I mean, sometimes you can get lucky, but
and there you're talking about, having just the time, the availability of time. It's like the one finite thing that we have. It's like, well, I don't know. I work 9 to 5. I work for the man. It's like, well, I had the weekends available, and that's the birth of the weekend warrior. People still want to get out there, and more power to them.
And it's better than nothing.
You're going out moose hunting for 3 days because you got off early on Friday. That's a lot of work to put in, one weekend. Getting to a location, finding a legal animal, harvesting it, packing it out, and being back at work on Monday morning.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I grew up moose hunting a lot with my dad, and he would just bow hunt around the management area. For most of the time I was growing up, and even from being pretty much as long as I can remember, and we'd go into places and just walk hunt in, and I've heard it referred to as still hunting now is usually how I'll refer to it.
Yep.
And walking through the woods, a trail is ideal because it's easiest to be quiet that way. But, he told me, is what he drilled into me, is animals don't just get out, don't just, like you say, they don't get out of a vehicle and just go somewhere. When they're going somewhere, they go there slowly. They take a few steps and they stop and they look and they listen. If everything seems okay, they take a few more steps and they stop and they look and they listen. And that's how they live their entire lives. And you can fool an animal really easily by taking a few steps, stopping, looking, and listening, because then you sound like you belong.
Yeah.
As soon as you take 20 steps, you don't sound like you belong anymore, right? And it takes a lot of discipline to have that mindset of just taking a few steps and stopping, even just for a few seconds. Because inevitably you're going to step on leaves, you're going to step on twigs. You can't be completely silent.
Right.
Yeah. Especially in Alaska.
No, there's too much dead foliage everywhere. And
exactly. And brush and depending on the gear you're wearing, and it's so hard to stay quiet. But
yeah. Well, and unfortunately, a lot of the quiet gear that exists in the hunting realm isn't tough enough for a lot of what we do in Alaska when you start getting into the thorns and
or if it is quiet, it doesn't shed water.
Right? Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so these are all great lessons to learn, but you had alluded to a pretty crazy story you had about an experience out there. So let's take a really quick break, and then let's dive into that when we get back. Hammer Bullets produces what we at the Northern Hunter consider to be the most premium and best working monolithic bullets on the market today. These bullets are easy to load, extremely accurate, and best of all, they're always in stock and ready to ship. The guys at Hammer designed them so that after penetrating the hide of an animal, it sheds its petals, initiating a massive energy dump while retaining the rear shank for maximum penetration. These bullets are built with 100% focus on how they perform on game, and their proprietary designs produce great BCs with specialized pressure grooves for amazing inherent accuracy and speed. They have a minimum expansion velocity of 1,800 feet per second, which allows for long-range shots, but with no maximum velocity, making them perfect for every cartridge from your granddaddy's old 30-30 to the high-velocity round like the Weatherby 30-378 without having to worry about your bullet failing. To view their expansive selection and find the perfect match for your hunting needs, go to hammerbullets.com and use discount code TheNorthernHunter to drop the hammer on your next adventure. You've told a couple interesting tales already, but you kind of teased us with one that was pretty intense from what you'd said. So, let's dive into that. What do you got for us?
Oh, you must be referring to the sheep hunt story, and this is I've told this story many times, never on a podcast. So I guess a lot of people are going to get to experience the version that hopefully is practiced, right? But I guess the moral of the story, because every story, right, has a point. And I would say that the moral of the story is choose your hunting partners wisely. Very, very wisely. Now, wisdom is one of those things that you kind of like experience. You get shortly after you need it. And if you survive the experience, it makes a great story. So that's what we have here. It's a great story is usually a mixture of misery, intermixed with a little bit of victory at the very end. I would say this is no different. But it started off with being a broke college student.
Like every good story does.
There's a fellow I was actually working for him, taking care of a bunch of his beef critters and equine hay burners over the winter as he was traveling out of the state. And he came back in the spring and said, hey, like the critters look really, really good. Thanks for taking care of them. By the way, what would you think about maybe going on a sheep hunt with horses? I said, sounds good to me. I didn't know anything about, horses or, sheep hunting. I'd done a little bit. I told you about sheep hunting, or the first sheep hunt I'd ever been on. I wasn't actually hunting, but I was packing. And he said, well, I'm getting up there, I think he was 74 at the time. He said, the way I figure it, there's just not enough time in a man's life to have more than 10 great Alaskan adventures. Like there just isn't enough time. He said, no, I've had 9. And I'm getting to the point that I really need help in order to be able to get out into, the wilderness and, have this 10th great Alaskan adventure. Let's go sheep hunting on horseback for my 10th great Alaskan adventure. And I was like,
there you go.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah, exactly. I can only imagine. I think everybody would say that given that opportunity.
19 years old. Somebody's like, hey, you want to go horseback sheep hunting? But they never tell you that, their horses haven't been used in, probably 7 years. The tack is, probably right where it got left. I don't know, 10 years ago when it came off the back of a horse after the last hunting trip.
Right.
Minor details like that. This was in the spring. I want to say maybe May timeframe. And so it's like, okay, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I will be ready and available August 10th or, a few days prior. Let's go sheep hunting. And I was going along. I wasn't actually supposed to do any hunting. But I don't know, maybe July rolls around and I call him up. And Carol was the fellow that asked me to come along. He's since passed away. And Carol was just one of those unique Alaskans. I mean, just salty to the core kind of Alaskans. I'm pretty sure that he brought his horses and his cattle up on a surplus World War II tug and barge setup that he got who knows where from Seattle all the way up. I don't know. He probably went to the Inside Passage. And I think he sailed up the Kenai River until his barge maybe ran aground. And that's where he unloaded his cows and his horses and said, I guess I'll homestead this. I don't know how much of an exaggeration that is, but it makes for a really good story.
I'd imagine that back in those days, that's probably, that could definitely be the way it went down.
I do know for a fact it was a surplus, a U.S. military surplus tug and barge that he sailed to Alaska. Anyway, July rolls around. I call him, hey, Carol, like, what's our plan? When are we going sheep hunting? Well, I don't know. We'll probably go ahead and we'll take off maybe the day before, or maybe 2 days ago. I give us a day to drive. So, okay, well, should I come and, I don't know, work horses? Should I maybe check the tack? He's like, oh, no, that'd be fine. Maybe show up at like 6 a.m. We'll go ahead and throw a few hay bales in and we'll hook up the trailer and load the horses. We'll head on out. That made me a little nervous because I've seen how much effort it takes to get all your gear organized and ready to go. The other thing that made me really nervous was I said, well, Carol, what do you think about like food? Should we divvy it up? Should we, should I do, breakfast? You do dinner, or vice versa? He's like, oh, no. Said, I'll bring some dehydrated instant rice and some coffee creamer. And we'll pick some berries while we're out there. And we'll have rice and cream and berries until we shoot a caribou or a sheep. And I was like, okay, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pack my own food, and I'm going to pack my own stove, and I'm going to be well fed. Because if you've listened to the prior episode, you know that I've been on hunts where I got very, very hungry. I wasn't going to let that happen again. A little bit of a teaser if you haven't listened to the prior episode. Oh, I want to say it's like the end of July. I call Carol, just, touch base, make sure we're still on the same page. Oh yeah, I talked to another fella. He's going to come along. Yeah, he used to maybe do some hunting down in Colorado. I think he's been on a horse before. Like, oh, okay. So now it's Carol and Rob, and like, oh, okay. Well, 3 people. That's probably not a bad idea. Okay, sounds like an all right fella. I started getting really nervous. Like, I just had this quiver in my liver that just said something wasn't quite right. So I showed up, I think maybe like 5 or 6 days early, and I started going through tack. And sure enough, like mice and squirrels had, chewed through panniers, and, leather's rotten. So I spent almost a week getting tack ready to go to, at least fixing it to where it was usable, or, at least you could depart the trailhead with an excuse for a pack saddle. You never know what it's going to come back like, but that's packing with horses. Here's the other thing: I really didn't know anything about working with horses, particularly packing with them. There's a little blue and white book. I want to say it's called "Horse Hitches and Rocky Trails" by Joe Back. It's like the horse packer's Bible, and talk about learning the hard way. The only thing I knew was I'd read that book. And there's a lot more to pack on horses than is included in that book, but it's a really great foundation. So I'm grateful for that. I think 4 days before the season started, or 4 days was with leave. So I don't know. It's the 8th. I don't know. It's like the 4th, I think. A friend of Carol shows up and says, "Oh, you're going sheep hunting? I've always wanted to go sheep hunting. Could I come along?" And Carol says, "Yeah, why, sure. Yeah, come along." So now I got 4 people. Now I don't know this other individual, and we'll change his name. Okay, we'll call him Art. Okay, and I talked to Art a little bit. I was like, well, Art, like, what kind of hunting have you done? So, I did some deer hunting, back in Michigan when I was a young man. I said, oh, okay. Art's getting ready to retire, and he worked on the slope and. If you heard of the freshman 15 for the slope, and just like anything, I think you put on the pounds as you get a little bit older. He did not look like he had the shape of a sheep hunter. We'll just leave it at that. And so I was like, well, Art, like, what kind of gear do you have? And he said, well, I think I have a rifle that should work. I said, well, what caliber is it? He said, well, what do I need? I said, well, tell you what rifle are you most comfortable shooting? He said, oh, I got this 308. It is perfect. It is exactly the right weapon for this. I said, okay, well, if you're really comfortable, you're accurate, shooting this, 308, that'd be plenty to, shoot a sheep with. Go ahead and get, hunting ammunition, and go ahead and get this sleeping pad and this tent and this stove and all this other gear. And I lined him out. And it's like, now go to Sportsman's Warehouse in Soldotna, and this is, what you need to get. He's like, okay. So day of. Shows up 6 a.m. along with Rob and Carol, and we, threw some hay bales in the trailer and took off. And I want to say it was like a 600 and something mile drive. Yeah, I mean, it was like, it was 2 days.
That's a stretch.
Yeah. And as we're driving up there, first of all, I should mention that Carol Martin was a trucker for a period of time, and Carol's a phenomenal individual, but really enjoyed him. But one thing that anybody that I've ever talked to that has driven with him has always said is there is a depression in the floorboard of the passenger seat where there should be a brake. And it was a very, very long, I don't know, like 15-hour drive trying to push this imaginary brake as we're flying out to go sheep hunting. But here's Art, sitting in the seat. He's talking about all this, hunting gear, and he starts talking about his rifle. And he's like, yeah, it was doing kind of something funky when I was out at the range, sighting it in. Like, every time I pulled the trigger, like, it would shoot twice. And that was like the first moment that I just kind of sat back and thought, what have I got myself into? The other thing is,
oh man,
trying to convince Art to go ahead and take a Western saddle. Now, if you're not very familiar with saddles, typical saddle you see in a, like a Western film is a Western saddle. It's designed for riding in the mountains. It has a little bit more seat to it, shall we say, than say an English saddle. Well, Art was very convinced that he should bring his English saddle, and his English saddle got brought along, even though we tried to talk him out of it. But we threw in a spare saddle for him, just in case we could change his mind on this 13 or 15 or however long many hour trip it was. No, we get to the parking lot and start packing up. Art's definitely going to use his English saddle. And since I'm the youngest individual, probably 25, maybe 30 years, when all of this gear starts showing up from Walmart and, all other, manners of, non-sheep hunting type retail locations, it took up the riding horse that I was supposed to ride, and that got turned into a pack horse. So now I'm the youngest guy. Obviously, I'm going to walk, right? So I start walking, and here's Art on his big, giant, barrel-chested quarter horse with this tiny little English saddle, and I like 100 yards outside of the trailhead. I mean, maybe 100 yards. There's this little incline. And the horse goes up the incline, and Art doesn't go up the incline.
Oh, no.
And he rolls right off the back of this horse. And, I give him credit. My gosh, I mean, that looked like it really hurt. And he just kind of grunted, and he got back on. That man knew how to suck it up. I tell you what.
Yeah.
But that was another inclination that is a look into the future. Like, this might not be the right. This trip might not go as planned. We'll just leave it at that. So we continue, hiking, and or I'm hiking. Everybody else is riding, and they got these two pack horses, and one of them is like an older age, it's like 32, maybe 35 years old. It looked like it was on death's doorstep. I think it was a borrowed horse, and I think we were supposed to take it into the woods with the hope that maybe the owner wouldn't have to put it down. I'm not entirely positive the story on that one, but again, it wasn't my horse, wasn't my circus, wasn't my monkey, right? As the saying goes.
Right.
So I'm just along for the ride. We go through some of the worst swamps I've ever taken a horse through. And I get up on the other side of this horrendous valley. And we're walking to the side. And this is supposed to be day one. I want to say it is August 9th now. And we maybe it's 6 miles, and we got another 25-ish maybe to go. And this is the end of day one.
Wow.
And Art has fallen off two more times, actually. So he's fallen off 3 times so far. And he's still sucking it up. And Carol's doing just fine. He's kind of taking care of himself. He's got his rice and his cream and his berries he's going to pick for, dinner. And Rob, he's actually had quite a bit of experience with horses. And I was very, very grateful for what I learned from him on that trip. So we're going up, starting to get dark. Yeah. And those... I call them rice paddies. You go up the side of a mountain. Sometimes you get like this little spring, the seepage. And so an entire side of a mountain that looks like it should be just rocky and tundra is really, really wet. And I bogged down, ran into a bunch of those, trying to figure out a way around it. And so I ended up going over the top of this mountain. And it was a legit mountain. Not really a place that you want to take horses. And we're almost to the top. And I'm getting tired. I'm getting frustrated. I think everybody's a little frustrated. The horses are frustrated. And
I was just saying them especially.
And if you've ever been around horses, like the sound of like horse hooves hitting hard ground when it reverberates through the ground. That's when they hit really, really hard. Well, this English saddle that Art is riding, it slips back. It's way too small for this, big barrel-chested quarter horse. Doesn't have a breast collar on or anything. So when this saddle slips back, and this is what had happened, I think, a couple prior times, the cinch turns into kind of a flank strap. It hits the flanks of the horse, and anything will buck, when you stick a flank strap on it. And so he's got bucked off as this saddle slides back. So he's going up the side of this mountain, and I'm a little ways, 100 yards ahead. And I hear horse hooves hit the ground really hard. I can feel them, the vibrations. And I turn around, and I see Art midair. Like the horse is bucking, right? And its rear end is higher than its front end, and it's just on the side of a mountain too. So you got to take that into consideration. It's going up, so it really bucked. And Art is sailing upwards, and I can start to see daylight between Art and the horse. And the horse, lands its feet, and starts bucking again. And Art hasn't reached the apex of his, flight yet. And he starts coming down. And as Art, starts accelerating towards Earth, the horse starts accelerating away from the Earth. And they, meet in the middle. And Art goes absolutely sailing. I mean, it's probably one of the worst horse, like getting bucked off a horse I've ever seen. I mean, you go to a rodeo, it's tame.
Yeah.
Bull riding. What's that? Just watch this.
Just get bucked off a horse on the side of a mountain.
Earlier, you mentioned about, some, actually, prior episode, you talked about what are these safety items you should have on your person? And I would argue that one of them should be an emergency locator transmitter. You can get really small ones, ELT. They're about the size of a candy bar. They fit in your pocket. If you pull the pin, somebody's going to come for you probably within 48 hours. I mean, that's what you hope. But it's a communication device. We've progressed a little bit beyond there, with the InReach and whatnot. You can send text messages, but those, like I said, they're the size of a Snickers bar. I carry one with me pretty much everywhere. I had it in my pocket. I've never pulled the pin on it. I would like to keep it that way. But this was the one day I thought to myself, I've always wondered when I was going to have to pull that pin.
Yeah.
I was like, this might be it. So I drop the lead rope of the horse I'm leading, and I run back to Art. And he's just like barely rolling up like onto his side when I get there. And he's just moaning. He's holding his knee. And he said, oh, my knee, my knee. And I'm like, oh, this is it. Yep, I have to pull the pin. And he's like, oh, my fake knee.
Oh.
It's like your fake knee? You're like, oh, yeah, I had it replaced a few years ago.
Oh,
I was like, oh, this would have been good information to know before we went on the sheep hunt. He's like, yeah, it's making, this weird clicking noise. And at this point, like in the back of my mind, I'm kind of hoping like it's titanium, like it's stronger than bone. Like maybe it's not actually hurt.
Yeah.
No, he straightened his knee out. And honest to God, it sounded like a ratchet. Like when he turned it went click, 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 click. And as he straightened, I'm thinking to myself, like, do I flip the little switch to go so he can retract and go click, 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 click the other way? And are you? I don't know if you're familiar with the old infomercials for the hurricanes, like the hurricane, little cane. You snap together, whatnot. You get it at Walmart or Target or whatever. It has a little shot cord in it, kind of like a tent pole. So here's Art holding his.
I don't think so. No.
And he's click, 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 click. And he's like, oh. He said, yeah, go to my saddlebags. I have a cane in there. Well, I go find his cane, and it is a hurricane on a sheep hunt in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness, miles and miles and miles from anywhere, with a clicking fake knee, with an English saddle.
Oh, man.
And this is when you learn that a level 10 can be a level 15, and then your level 10, your level 15 then becomes the level 10 of misery. Because Art got up with his hurricane and finished walking that day.
No
kidding. He's like, I don't think I'm going to ride anymore. He'd fallen off his horse 4 times that day. Wow. And he walked the last mile and a half, like down off the side of this mountain with his hurricane. And there's no feed, there's no water, there's no place to tie the horses. Oh man, I'm talking to Rob. Yeah. Rob has some experience with horses. He's like, like I'm not really sure where to, put these horses. I'm like, I don't know either, like maybe we can like tie some rocks around the lead ropes to slow them down when they run away during the middle of the night, because we don't have hobbles and they don't high line and there's nothing to tie to. He's like, well, that's better than anything else we got. So we started tying these big, slabs of, shale type rock to the end of these lead ropes on the side of this rice paddy, which is, the best feed there is. It's just really low caloric content for horses, but it was better than nothing. And here's Carol taking care of himself, no problem. He's got his rice and his cream and his berries, and he's loving life. And here's Art, is really not feeling so good. And Rob and I are like, what in the world do we get ourselves into? And me particularly, like, oh gosh, like I really don't know what to do. I am not the one that should be making the decisions here.
Yeah, right.
I'm the youngest individual. I have probably, the least life experience, but I guess the clock is pointing to me and say, you're the man of the hour, figure it out. And so he tied all these rocks to the end of the lead ropes, and here these horses, and they'll take like 2 steps as they're grazing. They'll be like squish, squish, because it's soft, moist ground. You can hear the suction of the horse hooves lifting up, and then you hear the squish, squish, squish of them walking, and then you hear them dragging these rocks, and the rocks are kind of settled down into the mud, so there's a little bit of suction. So it's like squish, 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 as they're dragging these rocks. So we got 6 horses all tied up.
You practiced that a time or two, yeah.
And you ever kind of notice there's like a little bit of a background noise, but it doesn't catch your attention quite right away. Well, I thought I heard like an airplane in the background. I'm like, that's odd. Like it's dark. Like why would a small airplane be flying out here, right now? Like I didn't pull the pin on my ELT, but I'm glad I, had it in case I needed it. Like nobody should be looking for us. It's, why in the world is there an airplane? That's a funny sounding airplane. And walking back towards camp, and the sound of this airplane keeps on getting louder and louder and louder. I finally get to back where the tents are getting set up, and I'm like, "There's not an airplane. That's a battery powered like motor or something." And I look inside the tent that Art has from Walmart, and there is the cushiest 8-inch thick air mattress with a 4D cell battery powered blower inflating it.
Oh man.
The man did know where to put the money, or at least the comfort. I'm not going to say the money because it was, probably a Walmart special. I know I'm hating on Walmart, but
yeah. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that.
So anyways, Carol said, "Oh, I'll sleep in that tent." He's 74-year-old, bones are like, "Oh yeah, that 8-inch thick air mattress on this sheep hunt looks really, really comfortable." Oh, like I want no part of this circus. Like I'm just, setting up my little, tent off to the side, and Rob and I are kind of talking. We're like, I don't really think we're gonna make it. Like I'm not really sure what to do. Like maybe we should talk to Carol about like, do we abort? Like what do we do? And it was a very, very somber camp that night, shall we say. And I went to bed and all night long. I was like, I'm trying to, I'm exhausted. I should be tired. I should be able to sleep. But all night, all I hear is squish, 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 squish. As these 6 horses are grazing and dragging their rock tethers. So, we wake up the next morning and Carol, has had time to think about it. He's like, there's no way we're going to make it to where we're going to go sheep hunting. Like, how you just leave us? And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like a good idea. I don't know. He's like, oh, no, we got a rice and cream of berries. If a caribou, comes through, we'll shoot that for some camp meat. We'll hang it up. And we got, some tender quick. We'll, build this little meat drying rack and a big old fire. And I was like, well... How about we at least get below tree line? That way, you have like firewood to do this with. So we help when we get down, we don't below tree line. And then Rob and I take 2 of the 6 horses and we take off, headed towards where we're going to go sheep hunting. And they're like, yeah, like if, maybe come back within a week, and Art and Carol are hanging out at camp. They're like, yeah, come back within a week. I was like, okay, if we're not back within a week, like send somebody looking for us. This is where we're going. So Rob and I each take a pack horse. So like, well, at this point, like we might as well just walk. We're just gonna take our backpacking gear. It'll be a really light camp. We'll have something to pack a sheep out. And we're talking. It'll be like 20 something miles to go still. I'm like, oh man,
it's a long way.
We got 20 miles. We're probably not gonna make it today, but we're gonna try. We got 2 horses. We got a little bit of feed for the horses. Hopefully we'll find grass. We're not really familiar with the country. They're like, man, I don't know. I don't think we should leave Art and Carol for a week. Like that just, I don't know. That just sounds like a bad idea.
Yeah.
So we took off. We found sheep like 2 days later. And through a series of events, I was supposed to be the last person that ended up shooting a sheep. But the sheep was right there. So, and I was the only person around. Rob had taken off and gone a different direction. So I ended up shooting a sheep. It was the only sheep that was harvested. And we skinned it out. Rob came and helped me dress it. We took it back to camp with the 2 horses. And we're like, oh, man, we seen one other legal sheep. Like, what do you think? You want to go up there tomorrow and shoot that, Rob? He's like, I don't know. It's been 4 days. I think we should be getting back. You're like, I don't know. Carol's probably running out of his rice and cream by now. I don't know. There weren't too many caribou that we've seen running around. I don't think he's going too far.
Right.
So we ended up packing up the sheep, camp and whatnot, and we took off. And we made it all the way back out in one day, the 2-day trip that coming in, from base camp with Art and Carol. We make it back there in one day. It was a hellacious day. And we get back to camp, and there's no Art, and there's no Carol, and there's no horses. And this is, I don't know, at like 10:30 at night.
Really?
I'm like, this isn't good. So I started like looking around for a little note. Finally find a note. And it looks like, somebody taking like a 22 bullet, with the lead, and scribbled on it the only scrap of paper they could find. And it says, "Hope you have Rose and Amigo. We're headed to the trucks." Now, Rose and Amigo were two of the horses. Rose.
I was going to say, I'm assuming those are the two horses.
Yep. Rose was.
Or not the two you had?
Favorite horse. Carol's favorite horse is Broodmare, who was later, come to find out, was actually pregnant with a foal that he promised to his grandkids that I think lived out of state at the time. And Amigo is his grandkids that lived in state's favorite horse. So things went from like pretty bad to really bad.
Now, are these the same two horses that you have, or are these two horses that they hoped you had in addition to the two?
So they had the 4 horses at the base camp. Okay. We had 2. And these are the 2 that had apparently gone missing.
Oh, no.
Yep. So again, you're getting the story like as it's unfolding. We're thinking the exact same thing. You're thinking like, hope you have Rose and Amigo. Like, I don't know what happened to Rose and Amigo. Like, what, aren't they with Art and Carol? Like, well, apparently not, because they say that they hope we have them, but we haven't seen them in 4 days. And I was like, oh man, I really don't want to have to pack out this camp because there's all kinds of gear. I mean, they just left the camp. I think they just, left with the shirt on their backs, basically. And maybe the rifle fired twice when you pulled the trigger once. And, we just gone 20 miles, and we were at this point we were just really fed up with the whole situation. We're like, we'll make it to the trucks tonight. And so we go across that hellacious swamp, the first hellacious swamp that I told you about. Is the worst swamp I've ever taken a horse through. Now, we went back through that in the dark at I don't know midnight, and we get to the other side, and we can kind of like make out on the skyline on like an adjacent ridge, this like oblong object. It's kind of like light colored. And I swear that I hear an airplane. It is not a rock. It's a tent. I'm like, that's where Art and Carol are.
With a very comfy air mattress inside.
Yep. So at least we hear the airplane. I mean, the airplane. So we head towards the airplane. And sure enough, it's Art and Carol, and they made it, I don't know, maybe halfway to the trucks. They made it through that really, really terrible swamp. And, we're talking to them like, like, I don't know, 2 hours after you guys left, a sow and 3 cubs, sow grizzly bear and 3 cubs came through camp, and 2 of the horses got away. That's Rose and Amigo.
Oh, man.
And they'd never seen them, the 4 days they spent there. They looked all over. I think that's all they did. That and pick berries for rice and cream and berries. I'm sure they were very, very hungry. Again, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And these are some, tough as nails dudes. They really know how to suck it up. So it is probably close to 1 a.m. The horses are tired. I'm tired. Rob's tired. The soles of my feet, I think, were almost walked off. I had like duct tape everywhere, trying to cover up the blisters. Because I was planning on riding, the 20 something miles or 20, it's close to 30 miles, I think, in, and then, the close to 30 miles out. So, 60 miles was a little bit further than I was planning on walking. At least I wasn't in extra tufts though. I know some really, hardcore old guides that's all they ever guided in was sheep hunts in extra tufts. I'm like, ooh, that is tough.
That is not a lot of
Yeah, right. So the next day, it's like 3 more miles to the trucks. We take, the 4 horses now, and we make it back to the trucks, and we drive to the nearest town and hire a guy to go look for the horses in an airplane. Flew. Couldn't find any hide in your hair trace of these horses. you're like, well, okay. So the next day, Rob and I are like, well, we better go back in and get that camp that's, 7 miles in. And Art's feeling a little sheepish, I think. He's like, this wasn't quite what it cracked up to be. And that English saddle, maybe I should have listened to him and taken that Western saddle. So he walks up to us, and this is after Rob and I have a conversation. Like, man, I think we're gonna just leave that English saddle out there just to spite him, just a little bit. And we're getting ready to leave the parking lot with this pack string to go pick up this camp. And Art walks up and says, hi, you can probably just leave that English saddle out there. So, of course, we have to bring it back. To this day, I don't think I've ever packed anything so ungangly and difficult to pack as a saddle that is not on a horse, on the back of a horse. Yeah. So, anyways, we got all the gear. We even got the saddle and brought it back. It was a very, very quiet ride all the way back home. Like, what do we do? And I know that I made that depression in the floorboard where there should have been a break a little bit deeper in the passenger side. Maybe it took us like 15 or 16 hours on the way up. Maybe it only took us 14 on the way back. We were 2 horses short. I mean, all that, you didn't have all that extra weight.
That's a lot of weight.
Faster,
Yeah.
Plus, it's south, so it's basically downhill. So we left some posters and some signs up, notifying anybody that might be in the area hunting. Hopefully, that hey, we lost some horses. Like, call this number. And we took off going home. Get home. It's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. This is like well into. Well, it must have been. It was September, so it must have been at least 3 weeks later. And I get a call on a Friday morning. No, I think it was a Thursday morning. Carol says, "We found the horses. Do you think you can find somebody to go with us? We're going to go get them." I was like, well, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
I was in college at the time. I had, all these assignments and whatnot and, papers. I'm like, well, there's only so many things that I can make excuses for. And, I went, 2/3 of the way across Alaska to look for a lost horse this weekend instead of writing this paper. Doesn't really sound, like that good of an excuse. Like, that's really believable. I mean, maybe it was like I went across the state of Alaska to retrieve an English saddle that got left in the woods. That might have been a little more believable. So yeah, I found it.
Depended on the professor.
I called everybody I could possibly think of that would, come out to look for these horses, and nobody's available. So finally, I was like, I wonder if my dad would be available. So I call him up. I was like, hey, you want to come up? We're gonna go find these horses. And he's like, actually, I'm available. So we get in the pickup truck with Carol. And I just jumped in the back seat. I'm like, I am not adding to that depression in the floorboard where there should be a break in the passenger seat of that pickup truck. So, yep, whole drive up, like a bat out of hell. We were making tracks. We had a mission, and we were going to get these horses. Made it up, and I think we left at 4. Maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Got up there like 6 the next morning. Slept for maybe 30 minutes. Met the local guy that had seen these, horses while he's out caribou hunting. He'd seen them a few different times and then seen the poster. And he's like, "Oh yeah, like they're just over this ridge. Like, I'll go with you." I was like, "Well, that's really nice." So yeah, we met him. Drove out to the trailhead. Walk in. Sure enough, I don't know, 5-6 miles in, find the horses.
Nice.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how well this is going. I'm like, I don't know. My experience with horses is a little jaded at this point. I'm like, something bad is going to happen. Like, this is just going a little too well. Oh, there's just no way. I mean, after the drive up, only getting 30 minutes of sleep, not sleeping all night, hiking in, and it's not 5 miles to like a trailhead. We went down the trail for maybe a half a mile and then peeled off. And he's just going through the dwarf birch and the willows and the swamp and whatnot. I mean, it's exhausting work. So out, 5 miles back, I don't know, maybe 3. Like, we're just not going to make it back. in the daylight. We might as well just go ahead and camp.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever tied 2 horses so securely in my entire life. I was not letting them get away. Yeah. So the next day, we took the horses, made it back to the pickup trucks, and here's Carol. He's saying, "Oh, I'm ready to go. Like I slept for the last, day and a half while you guys were looking for those horses. Like, let's drive." And it was like 4 p.m. Well, I was a little slow on the draw, and I got the front seat.
Just pushing forward the whole time.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if you're very familiar with Caribou Creek Cut up by Gunsight Mountain.
Been through there.
This is down north of Palmer a ways. Palmer in Wasilla area, and it's this big giant cut where this Caribou Creek comes out, and you're looking down into like the Matanuska River Valley. And I want to say there's like a passing lane going up and maybe a single lane going down. And we're going down, and I don't know, it's like 2:30 in the morning. And Carol and I are talking, just trying to keep each other awake. At this point, he's tired, and I'm exhausted. And this is something I learned from Carol. You said, you're exhausted, huh? You've running behind a truck.
Yeah, right.
So he's telling me, he said, back in the day, I used to haul stock through Canada. He said, if you drive you drive faster if you drive at night and you use the whole road. I'm not talking like your lane.
Right.
Entire paved surface.
That all used to be one road until somebody put a line in the middle of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you get the idea. Yeah. So here we're going around Caribou Creek Cut at 2:30 in the morning going downhill. Must be going like 85, maybe fast. I mean, at least it felt that fast at least. And my nerves were a little, afraid at this point. Maybe weren't going quite that fast.
Say on that road especially.
I mean, maybe it felt like 120, but either way. All of a sudden I see headlights chugging up that, lane, the far outside lane. I'm like, Carol, you see those? I'm a little concerned. He's a little bit older, maybe night vision isn't quite so good. That depression got really, really deep. I'm sure I added like a 1/4 inch just in that one moment. And he's like, I'm trying to take it easy on the horses in the back. And oh man, there must have been 6 inches between our mirrors as we're going like in the passing lane down the hill with this 18-wheeler just chugging along at like 30 going up, in a really low gear. We get to Eagle River, Anchorage, drop my dad off, and we keep on going. And I think we got home at like 7:30 the next morning. I'm sure, if you've been in the military, if you've gone on some extreme backpacking trips, there's a point when you haven't slept in so long that everything just hurts and you're not even hungry anymore. Your body starts just slowly shutting down at like, what's a necessity? What's a necessary feeling to survive? I just remember just feeling nauseous. I was so tired. And he's like, oh, let's cook up some breakfast. I'm like, Carol, I'm going to bed. So 2 days later, he's like, he called me up. He's like, yeah, that worked out pretty good going sheep hunting with them horses. What do you think about going sheep hunting next year?
Hey, when you're tough, it's just.
Yep. So that is a salute to Carol and his iron will and indomitable optimism, I guess.
If that was a pretty good hunt, I'd be horrified to hear some of his bad hunt stories.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to hear about that tug trip going north.
Yeah, right. Exactly. No, that's. I see. I was a little curious at the beginning when you said pick your hunting partners wisely. But I see it now. I do have one question though. Considering the story you told in the Monday's episode, and then this story, have you ever had a sheep hunt that went smoothly?
That's an excellent question.
It might just be
about this for a minute.
It might just be sheep hunting for you. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a sheep hunt. That went decently smoothly.
Yeah. So it's not just all sheep hunts that just break out the mayhem.
No, not at all.
Not for you.
I don't know. I think you mix horses in with anything. There's like this elevated level of unpredictability.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, you mix an equine critter with Alaska backcountry. It's like, things are gonna happen. Let's go ahead and strap, a foreign dead object to it. Let's see what happens.
Well, I know there's a couple of guide outfits in the state that run horses for moose and other things. And then I've read some about people using horses for hunts and whatnot. And there always seems to be some factor that people don't, that you just can't predict. Like you said, it just adds unpredictability. And I think it's something that's fascinating. I would love to go on a horseback hunting trip at some point. But I feel like I need to know a lot more than I do currently before I try to embark on something like that.
Since that was my introduction to horseback hunting, and since I've done quite a few other horseback hunts, and it is truly one of the best ways, in my opinion, to see and experience the wilderness. A good horseback hunt is unlike any other type of hunting. I mean, it adds a whole nother dimension of enjoyment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and that's pretty much been the story I've heard from everybody that's done it. That's a big reason I want to try it so bad is, just to get that experience. And it just sounds amazing. So
when a 70-something-year-old Alaskan says, I've had 9 great Alaskan adventures, I need help on my 10th. Would you come with me? I'm going to go horseback sheep hunting. I guess you'll just be able to say, of course I'll come along. And then you get to go horseback hunting.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just wait for that opportunity to arise. Well, let's take a quick break, Mo, and we'll jump back.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to stealthyhunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.
All right, so that was a very, very interesting story about everything going wrong. What would you say? Let me ask you this: what would you say would be your what you consider your greatest success out in the woods so far? Like, what was like an instance where you what did you tackle so far that you think is like that's what I've got to beat to get to the next level?
Oh, the sheep hunt.
That one itself.
I mean,
and honestly, to come out of that one successful, I mean, it is amazing. All those things stacked against you, and to come out with a sheep on your back.
Thank goodness it wasn't on my back. It was actually in the back of a very unwilling horse.
There you go.
Yeah. I look at that, sheep. It hangs on the wall. I did a European mount. I'm not super big into, like trophies and whatnot. It's like, don't get me wrong. I love harvesting, mature, representations of a species and preserving that. Mm-hmm. But it's all the other memories that go along with it. I mean, that's why I go to such extreme lengths to, go hunting. It's like, well, okay,
right.
If I was trying to purely sustain myself nutritionally, I wouldn't go to that effort.
Yeah, right.
But I'm chasing something more than that. Mm-hmm. And when you are chasing something more than that, the world's your oyster. I mean, enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Jump right in. You don't know how to do it. Well, go figure it out.
Yep, exactly.
and learning how to learn is probably one of the biggest things that's helped me do that personally.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody learns a different way, but like learning how you learn best.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's like, okay, how can I, and sometimes it's academic, other times it's in life. But learning how you learn, if you learn how to teach yourself things, you can go anywhere.
Yeah. That's very true.
If there's one thing you need to master that.
Yeah.
And everything else, well, that eventually will become easy.
Yep. In whatever manner that looks like, whether it's finding people to talk to, YouTube, podcasts, learning, in person, just going out and getting out in the woods and just experience it. I mean, yeah, that's a huge one there. Is just how do you learn? I had one last question for you. We talked in the last one about the kind of the lifestyle of an entrepreneur. You're running the Wrangell gear company. You've got your hands in all kinds of different things. And one, what would you say your like staple hunts are? Like, what are the things you focus on the most? And two, talk about how you kind of balance out like a busy lifestyle while still focusing on being able to get out in the woods and pursue this passion of hunting. Because I feel like for a lot of people, they get overwhelmed with life. They get overwhelmed with what's going on around them, and they just kind of lose sight of what's going on, or lose sight of that passion, I should say. So what's like, how do you approach all of that and with balance and whatnot?
Balance. That's an interesting term.
Especially in a chaotic world.
I'll tell you what, let's just back up a little bit, because I think this is really boils down to, like, at the core level of it all, a life philosophy. So most people, they do what society says they're supposed to do, right? They go to school. Everybody, goes through, an education system where they learn to, conform in certain ways, and then based on what you think you're supposed to do, like, oh, I'm supposed to go to college. Oh, I'm supposed to go to college, then I get a job. Oh, in order to go to college, I'm supposed to get student loans, or and you end up developing a lifestyle that's very similar to everything else that is, or everyone else is around you. Now, for society, that actually makes a lot of sense, right? If you can create more commonalities in understanding somebody else's life, it actually benefits, like a culture. And okay, I understand you because I lived a similar lifestyle, if that makes sense. I'm not saying like every individual is like another individual, has the exact same experiences, but when you have the same foundation of building blocks of what you built your life upon, they're like, okay. I have a bit more of an idea when I step in. It's fewer variables to take into consideration.
It
is my observation that most people are comfortably miserable in life. As a result of those decisions. When I say by comfortably miserable, I mean they are comfortably failing. They are miserable enough with their life that they dream of changing it. But they're just comfortable enough that they don't really have the motivation to do so.
Right. Yeah.
So when you're comfortably miserable, you likely stuck in a life, maybe a job you don't really care for, but you got to work a job in order to be able to afford the bills, et cetera, et cetera. And you have built a life that you have to be in that cycle to maintain.
Yeah.
I guess through a series of, you could call them unfortunate or fortunate events, I got forced out of that in my 20s, early 20s. And I am very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Was it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Was it miserable? Yes. So as far as balance, when you create a life that has balance and you're like, okay, well, I work a 9-to-5 job, but I want to be able to be in shape, but I work behind a desk. So then after, work 9 to 5 and behind a desk, I have to go to the gym to be able to work out in order to be able to maintain, my health and fitness. I'm like, oh, it's just, imbalanced. Like it's not necessarily self-sustaining. You end up taking so much time. It's that one finite thing we all have. It's like we only have so much time.
Right.
Like, hey, well, in order to maintain fitness, then that takes time away from family. And what other hobbies you might have. So I'd say, build a life that allows you to go hunting.
Yep.
Or just make it a priority. And if you make it a priority, not everybody can do this. I'm fortunate enough to be able to say, okay, if I'm going to guide some fishing trips, okay, well, August 20th, I'm leaving. I'm going moose hunting. That's a condition of my employment.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Or, and you're working for yourself, you're selling, backpacks like, or bags or, other accessories and whatnot, like with Wrangell, for example. It's like, well, I want to be able to take care of customers, but I might have an auto respond like, hey, I'm out hunting. Like I'll get back, on or before this date. Be happy to fulfill your order. If it's delayed, our apologies. We're out hunting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of like a long answer to a rather direct question, but there's a lot that goes into that. It's you will find time for things that are a priority for you.
Yep. Yeah.
You will. It's that desire. It all boils back to how much desire you have to make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, it's that prioritization that's the big thing. And it goes, as you so well put it. I'm glad you went into as much detail there because it's something as involved as hunting is, whether it's the time, the gear, time is the biggest one. Right. It's something you've really got to put on the priority list, or it's just going to fall out because you've got to build the rest of your life around the ability to do that. And I see so many people they have it's kind of just on the back burner, and the desires is there, but just not. They're not able to
miserable.
Yeah, comfortably miserable. That's the way you put it is the best way. Yeah, I like that. I like that term.
Yeah, well,
it's sad that so many people are in there, but it's very accurate.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that my life is always great, either. It's not like it's all roses. It's it's life. We all have our struggles, and we all have to choose what that fight's going to be. Is that going to be our work, or is that going to be getting time off to go hunting? Is that going to be miserable while I'm out hunting?
Yeah,
choose your hunting partners wisely.
Yeah.
And then who you surround yourself with. I think that's the other big thing. Like if you surround yourself, like a very, very core level, like for example, your spouse. I'm very, very fortunate. My wife loves to get out and hunt with horses. Take horses out and go hunting. Best hunting partner. She doesn't complain when it's windy, wet, when the bugs are bad, when we run out of food. It's like, I don't know. We went out hunting for the first time together, and I was like, you're like the best hunting partner. You don't complain when it's all these things. You're like, well, why would I complain? Isn't that hunting? I'm like, it is. Don't complain.
Right. Yeah.
After you have a certain number of clients or a certain number of bad hunting partners that didn't expect it to be this miserable, having somebody that goes hunting with you that doesn't complain about these things, that's really nice. And having that type of person surrounding you helps strengthen those traits and characters,
absolutely
in yourself and in your friends and, the type of media you consume, you become like it.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
Yep. That's absolutely true. What do you got to say, Mo? You've been sitting over there for a little while now.
I have been. I'm sitting here listening, enjoying the stories. I would say, is there any like great successful hunt story? Like just everything went right that that'd be quick and easy to tell. Like, went out and shot what we were supposed to shoot and turned out really nice. You got any stories like that?
Yeah, I actually do. I think I have. Well, one comes to mind, like right off the get-go. It was a moose hunt. It was opening day. Show up. And when I say opening day, I mean opening day. It opens at midnight. Okay, so you should be out in the field, by 2 a.m. It's how miserable are you willing to be in order to accomplish your goal?
Right.
And if you're willing to be a little bit more miserable than the rest of everybody else, then you're likely to be more successful. So yeah, it's that 2 a.m. wake up call. Nobody likes it. I don't like it, but I like eating moose. So there we go. Anyhow, took the boat out and zipped up river, made it to a swamp, sat there. I mean, it's dark, it's like, I don't know, 4 a.m. Maybe it's probably late. It's probably like 4:30. And I could hear moose like out in the swamp, like splashing. I just cut the motor and, kind of pull into some of the weeds. It was like a little stability with the breeze, getting blown around. And first light, I mean, there's a legal moose right there.
No kid.
Yeah. So yeah, it was that rare one-day moose hunt. Just rare in general, one-day hunt. I would always tell people, and I learned this from an individual that has way more guiding experience than I do, and there are many people that have more experience than I do. But I thought it was full of wisdom when he said, "Never." I always tell his clients, never pass up an animal on the first day that you would shoot on the last day.
Yeah. That is phenomenal advice.
Yep. So meat moose.
Yep.
Opening, first light, boom. I think that also, it was really good that that went so well, because I remember there being like a bit of an ammo shortage that year. I think I went hunting with 3 rounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Couldn't find ammunition anywhere.
Yeah.
So it was one of those like, well, it better go right.
Hope you're on 0.
Yeah, hopefully I can find ammo before next year. Or I'm going to go hunting with 2 rounds.
Right. It got like that in Fairbanks for a good while.
You don't by chance shoot like a 300 short mag, do you?
I know not what you speak of.
Okay. So, I haven't seen ammo on the shelves for that thing in probably 2 years now.
Wow, that long.
Yeah.
Really?
And I have some other loads for it, but what I was zeroed for on our deer hunt last winter, I went with, I think, like 15 rounds. That's what I had.
I do remember that.
I think I've got like 11 now.
Well, at least 2 of them went into deer. So,
yeah, but now now I'm working up my own hand loads. So,
yep, there you go. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up for today. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some stories and sharing some of your background there. That's some pretty entertaining stuff. Real quickly, just in case anybody missed the first episode that came out this Monday, recap really kind of what Wrangell gear is, and where people can find your gear and get in contact with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So Wrangell Specialty Outdoor Equipment, or Wrangell Gear, is outdoor equipment company. We make specialty outdoor equipment designed for the dedicated users, dedicated adventurers, and professional users, such as guides and other Alaskan hunting types. If you want to check that out, go to www.wrangellgear.com. If you're one of the individuals that has purchased one of our products and has used it, please do leave us a review. You can read the reviews at the bottom of each one of the product pages. Big thing with us, I know there's a lot of companies out there, they either pay for their reviews or they add seed reviews for their products. We don't do that. So when you see a review, that's actually what people have written about the product after they've used it. You'll see there's been a few podcast reviews. We've given some products out and, had people use them over an extended period of time. They seem to really like them. We also have people, just like you, gone out, bought a piece of gear, taken out hunting for, moose, sheep, bear, goat, whatever. Really like the product. And yeah, so if you've bought a product, please do leave a review. It makes a world of difference for other people understanding why that product is worth spending the money on. You can also find us on all the social medias. That would be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, all underneath the username Wrangell Gear. Check it out. We do have a limited run edition of the Captain's Duffel. It's the all black Captain's Duffel. And we're doing just a limited run. We have a few left. If you want to go online, you can go ahead and order one of those and snatch one of those up. In fact, let's go ahead and do a discount code for watching this podcast.
Awesome.
We'll go ahead and just do a Northern Hunter, the Northern Hunter 10 will be the discount code. Go ahead and take 10% off your order for listening to this podcast, and just enter that at checkout at www.wranglegear.com. That discount will only be applied on the website. So if you go to any of the retail locations, such as the Wilderness Way in Soldotna or Folkrow Archery in Anchorage, that won't be applied. So go ahead and head to the website, get that discount.
Awesome. Well, hey, we appreciate that, man. Hopefully all you listeners enjoyed getting to know Lowell a little bit, and definitely go check out a lot of that gear. Kind of the same thing. If you'd like to support what we're doing here at the show, you can head over to thenorthernhunter.com, and we have a shop page there with some merch. We also have the partners page with a bunch of companies that have decided to partner with us and support what we're doing here. We've got a full list of all their links and the codes you can use at checkout with them as well. If you have any questions, there's a contact button there on the website, and you can also find us on any of the social medias if you search at the Northern Hunter on either Facebook or Instagram. Yep. And as always, definitely subscribe, leave us a review as well. Ratings, 5 stars is always best, but a written review really helps people find the show and pushes that out there.
We like reading them.
Absolutely, we like reading them just as much as anybody else. So. All right, well, Lowell, thank you one more time for coming on and spending the evening with us. We've really enjoyed it. So,
well, absolutely. Thanks for having me on and letting me pontificate on choosing your hunting partners wisely, as well as other gear nerd, gear junkie type conversations.
Absolutely. All right, so grab some good gear, choose your hunting partner wisely, and until next time, get out there, get after it, and good luck. See you there.
All right, folks. We all know that one of the most common mishaps in hunting is damage to your rifle scope. Last year, I found the solution to that problem with the Stealthy Hunter rifle cover. It wraps around your scope and actions securely to protect it from getting knocked off of zero or even severely damaged. Stealthy Hunter also has a glassing pad and a wide variety of supplements for the outdoorsman, such as protein powder, CBD products, turmeric, and gut health supplements. They also make a lightweight trauma kit weighing in at just 14 ounces that includes everything you need and nothing you don't for all of your backcountry medical emergencies. To shop all of their equipment and supplements, go to stealthyhunter.com and enter the discount code at checkout, The Northern Hunter, to save on your order today. All Stealthy Hunter equipment is proudly made in the USA.